Hey everybody, this is En route. Today we're going to be talking about something that is super important. Coca-Cola is not good for you. You shouldn't drink it. But on a more serious note.
Okay, so this is me, Jasmine, en route. Here behind the screen. I made this video on my phone, and it came in 3 parts because I kept getting phone calls and my thing kept getting interrupted and stuff. And so yeah, it's cut in 3 parts, but I didn't want to do a whole editing thing, so I'm gonna speak over this video because there's some stuff in here that I feel like isn't it just graces the surface of what I was trying to say, and I want to be able to give more insight as to what I mean when I say certain things as this video progresses. So I hope you enjoy this video and kind of get an idea about my perspective on this whole thing, education, and how important this video is for everybody and for our future.
I wanted to shed light on something so that maybe people can kind of look at things from a different perspective and maybe not be so judgmental about things, because throughout history things tend to repeat themselves because we never try to learn the lessons that we so desperately need to learn. Or maybe some people learn the lessons but other people just want to fight and be destructive and be narcissistic and, hold on to the power that they don't even deserve. My point here is that you wouldn't treat a woodpecker the same way you did a hummingbird. And people started to look at themselves like birds. And if people started to see that there are many different varieties of us with many different characteristics and traits and abilities, and that some of us tend to be good at certain things and some are better than others at certain things, and some of us look different. Some of us have curly hair, some of us straight hair, some of us have more melanin in our skin, some of us have none. And that's the beauty of it. That's how birds are. Birds can be blue and green and white and black and brown and everything in between. And yet we don't get mad at them. We don't say, oh, that hummingbird sucks because it isn't drilling a hole through a tree and grabbing worms. We know that the hummingbird works on sap and flowers, and that's how it survives, and that its metabolism is very fast, and that is why it continues to eat the way it does, because that is the fuel system that it was designed to take in. And so if we look at ourselves like that, we need to realize.
And this some people could take this in a way that is like, oh, so we all just gotta stick to our own feathers, birds of a feather gotta flock together. No, that's not what I mean at all. What I mean is that it's the beauty of all of our differences that make up all the variety and exciting experiences that we all get to experience. We don't want to we want to be able to appreciate people for what they bring to this world. I mean, who the hell would have thought to put henna on all over their body and, do these really cool belly dances? Only the Indians over in India, the world would be so less colorful without that. We don't get mad at people for their culture and things like that. We embrace each other for our differences, and we bring them together because all of us have perspectives that could help. And there's always 100 ways to do one thing. There's 100 ways to do one thing. And so the variety is important because some things work for other people, and it doesn't really matter, it doesn't really matter. But the point is that we still have to appreciate people for where they are, who they are, and what they bring to the table. But definitely segregation is the wrong way to go, and as a mixed person, I should know.
As certain people and certain genomes and just specific breeds of us are going to tend to have certain traits and tend to have certain tendencies. That doesn't necessarily make it bad or good. It just makes it a part of that species. And then some of us are going to be hybrids of everything, of whatever we come from. And I just, if we just look at things like that.
And when we hybridize, that brings in a whole new range of qualities, attributes, and things that we never knew could happen.
We will be less judgmental of everything. It doesn't really matter. And I really, I am actually surprised that in this day and age that we have so many race issues, because it's just such a trivial, small, elementary thing. You're supposed to learn this in grade school. Like, why are we having grown people and an entire country having a huge debate about things? Everybody is different, and there's a reason for it, and it's a good thing that we're all not all the same, and there are benefits to having.
And I'm not naive to the suppression of certain things in certain places, but we got to understand that most of the suppression is a mindset, and that's why we all need to talk and speak our ideas.
Variety, as opposed to living in a place like communist China, where there is no variety, where there's continuous uniformity, where you don't have much of a say, where you don't have much of a choice, where being racist is actually kind of a good thing.
Like, the genocide on the certain group over there who follows the God of Allah, the Quran. I don't want to say it outright because of certain things, but yes, there's a genocide going on currently in China as we speak. And, a lot of people don't understand the beauty of this melting pot that we live in.
And I think, that whole saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think that's exactly what's going on, is that, we have everyone saying, oh, well, it's because of this or it's because of that. But the implementation of fixing the problem.
The problem is that they're doing this in a manipulative manner. They're not actually doing this to help. Their intention is wrong. They're saying it's good, but the intention is actually not good. The intention brings grief and strife to everybody. And that's the problem.
It's actually destroying a lot of other things. It's actually causing a lot of other problems. It's actually...
And the reason why it brings grief and strife to everybody is because they make it to the point where people are so closed and narrow-minded that they can't even communicate with each other. It's like, oh, you're a city slicker, I can't talk to you. Oh, well, you're a redneck, I can't talk to you. And they'll, even though they may have some perfect insights to help each other out in their lives, because the two were pinned against each other, they'll never be able to actually come and bring their ideas together and actually create something that's more amazing, because they're too hell-bent on their differences.
It's a domino effect that people aren't looking at, and we're making a problem inflated when it doesn't have to be. When it comes to schools and stuff like that, the school system, how come the school system, why does it feel like, it's dwindling in its ability to actually educate the kids? Maybe it's because we aren't pushing hard enough on changing and reforming the education. And we need to do this on a state and county level. We can't...
I think school, it is very important that you're educated based on your region and things like that for certain things, because it's not like that. It's just uniform all around. And the reason why it's uniform all around is because we are not educated in many things, such as the geography of our land, how to, um, locate different things for foraging and things like. We have no ability to survive without a government system in place. Most people are completely dependent, and if you really think about it, we have no freedom in the fact that we are dumb to what it is to actually be connected to our roots. Most people don't even know how certain things grow, and if they had to grow something, it's just mind-boggling that we eat stuff, but we don't see how it actually is, how the process of it happens. We're just consuming things, and year by year, the food gets worse, our education gets worse, our health gets worse, and then we're wondering why everybody's depressed. We're becoming a sick, mental society who can't. Who half of them is depressed, and everybody or people are on drugs because they have to cope with the day-to-day stresses of the rat race.
Depend solely on our government to do these things, and if we want,
the communities need to come together. The governments are not going to bring us together. We have to do it.
To get our children to learn different things that are actually important, that are actually going to make them productive adults, then we need to be more involved in schools, and maybe even have parents come together to open up new schools that teach things in a new way, and maybe eventually eradicate the public.
Why does the government have so much control over the education of our children? Why do we have no say in these things? Why? It doesn't make sense. It's not correct.
Public school system in the way that it is, because it's infiltrating and indoctrinating our children in a manner that we don't want. And as we can see, that the success rate of being actually rich and coming out of school and at the end of someone's life isn't very high. Most people are not ending up becoming a millionaire. Most people don't have the financial freedom that they actually want. Everybody wants quality of life, but how do you get quality of life? It starts with education. It starts with what you know. The more you know, the more of an ability.
The less educated you are, the less you know about. You can have the same land as your neighbor and make amazing things happen to that land because of what you know, and you don't even know the riches you have beneath your feet. And your neighbor can have the same exact land, the same opportunity as you, and starve and die on that same land because he doesn't know what to do.
And the more of the chance and the opportunity you're going to have to figure things out. And if education is messed up, then how are people going to have those tools, those mental tools, which are the most important tools, the mental tools to pull themselves out of a situation when they do get stuck, when life throws a wrench in their plans? So it's so easy to get thrown out, like off of your track, just by getting one little speeding ticket where you may or may not have even been speeding. Sometimes they'll give you a speeding ticket that's as much as somebody's a week of wages. And so if we see that there are many things that occur, throughout the day,
we all know the day-to-day really messes with us. You get the flat tire, or it's just something, your kids, something happens. Life is not just this perfect, everything just goes exactly how you want. Accidents happen. Sometimes traffic occurs. You don't have control over everything, and there's things that we can't foresee.
Just the daily, day-to-day life that could, it's very hard to get up when you have a lot of people trying to keep you down. And this is, again, we continue to have, essentially career criminals. They're just always in jail. And it's because the reform system is like, well, this is great. I have a jailmate. He produces about $30,000 to $40,000 worth of work for me per year, and I don't even have to pay the guy. Well,
and sometimes more, 50, 60, especially when it's in the construction.
then of course I'm not going to try to actually help him to better himself, to educate himself, and to give him tools to get out of this, because you benefit too much from it. And so because people care more about money than people's lives, we end up releasing people that are uneducated and don't actually get fixed, and actually get screwed up more from actually being in the jail system. And then we have people, that go to school, and go some of these schools, okay, like the specific schools that are like, practically segregated. You'll see, because I actually my daughter went to an all black school, and it was called Hungerford Elementary School, and it it is actually very, very disappointing and very telling as to why the black community has suffered so much, because their education requirements and the standards for the children's education in those schools that are segregated, practically segregated.
They're literally segregated. There was like one Asian kid, one like Mexican kid, my kid who's mixed, and then another little girl from Cuba. And then everybody else was black. So it was a pretty segregated school, okay? And let me tell you, the curriculum was very different. And my daughter even had the word gun as one of her vocabulary words. I mean, I just thought that was odd.
Are the reason for this, and because they don't have exposure to other people and different cultures and different things, so what do? They stay down. So their grandma was on welfare, their great grandma was on welfare, their grandma was on welfare, their mom was on welfare, and then their aunties on welfare. Everybody around them is just.
And as a mixed person, like, I've always lived, I grew up in the hood. My mom was on welfare, SSI. She, couldn't work. And I had a very humble upbringing. I shared a room with my brother and my mom. I didn't really have things, to a capacity. For a couple years, in my younger years, I did have my own room for like 3 years. But, that was cool. But, this is what I'm saying. You're not this. It's kind of a struggle for survival all the time. You just have to always worry about survival, and because you're so uneducated, which I totally was. Oh my God, you don't even understand how ignorant I was at one point. As I wake up, I realize, wow, this is crazy, and it's such an easy fix. And I'm here to be a part of taking responsibility for that fix.
Just doing the same thing, and then they're learning at a level much lower than they should, and then no one's pushing them, and there's a lot of crime, poverty, aggression, and because there isn't a lot of compassion, there isn't a lot of, hey, this is how we actually do it. Instead, it's just keeping this as a cycle of essentially creating more people with a slave mentality, because they aren't properly educated. And this isn't the only case. It has nothing to do with just the segregated schools. I went to 2 different high schools, and let me tell you, the education was very different at both of those high schools. One was Colonial High School, and one was.
And yeah, there's tiers. We technically live in a caste system, and we don't even realize it.
Boone High School. And it was crazy how much better and more efficiently.
It's a caste system, but if you try and work your ass off, you could move your way up for sure. But your level is where your level is, and it's very hard to move around when you're dumb, like I was at one point.
I was taught at Boone High School and the more nicer areas and the white areas, as opposed to a school that was more predominantly Spanish and Colonial. And this was what I'm saying, like, we need to start changing the culture of education and changing the culture in the schools, and changing our students' focus and changing this.
Like, some of the way that these people learn, it's to teach them a conveyor belt system of learning. It's to teach them to go be the, just go to work. It's like a factory kind of thing. But I think things in this world have come to a point where most people are, they don't have a factory job, and things are a little bit different, but yet we're trained in a manner that keeps us from critically thinking about the world at large. And what I say about this is, like, how crazy you will open up your child's eyes if you teach them how to grow food. Children that don't even have the luxury of being able to do that, they miss out on so much information, because just that alone can teach you so much, just even about yourself. And, things like that is just so important for nourishing our society. For instance, starvation to me is bullshit. I don't think starvation is real. It's created because of, like, oh, we're so greedy. We're so greedy. We don't give a shit about people are starving. It's like, well, you got to pay for it. But yet food is free for the animals and on the trees. And if you knew how to identify things, you wouldn't just die of starvation. The fact that we allow people to die of starvation just shows how greedy we are and how disgusting we are when it comes to, caring more about money than people's lives.
Set up, because we're setting up everybody to kind of have to learn things and then realize, at 30 years old or whatever time they have a realization, like, oh my God, like, I've just been going the wrong way my whole life, and the system sucks, and I've just been doing a bunch of shit for no reason. And then this is why we have just high depression rates. We're not even creating, good, happy environments anymore. Instead, we're creating, a rat race.
We're creating virtual realities to run away from the reality that we're destroying.
A rat race when we don't have to. We're
That's meta right there. We're just trying to hide everything under the rug.
Creating a bunch of waste. We're
going to spend billions of dollars to create a fake society just to leave ours crumbling in reality.
We're doing things in a way that we shouldn't. People are throwing away tons and tons of food. The grocery stores are throwing tons and tons of food away, and the restaurants are throwing tons of food away. Yet we have people starving, people doing all this crap, and it's like, no wonder why the system's crumbling. It's just like, well, you have all of this thing that's just based off of money and not actually life, actually living, actually enjoying it. I understand why money is important, but we've put it above our life. We put it above, people.
And the thing is, I do understand money is important, but the way that we use it, we've allowed things to get too big and have too much control over everything. And because people, when they get to a certain point of power, they develop a God complex. They're so removed from what it is to start from the bottom, or maybe they've never even been at the bottom, that they just look at you like what do they call it? Useless eater, and yeah.
And now our society is crumbling and suffering because we decided that we weren't going to care about, the person anymore. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. It's Enru. Have a good day.